Hello, I want to welcome you to another episode of Recovery Today, sponsored by the Recovery Resource Center here in Salisbury, Maryland. My name is Perry Gadurgis. I'm the host of the show. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and what that means for me is that I have not had any mood-changing chemicals or alcohol use in over 41 years. And I'm a super grateful recovering person in recovery from a substance use disorder. Back in the day, and what this program explores is that there is multiple paths of recovery, and a lot of people used to identify themselves as alcoholic or drug addict, and we really try to explore with this show other ways to look at the language and the ways that people do embrace recovery and experience recovery today. And so it's my great pleasure to have our guest today, John Winslow, the founder of this show. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Perry. Great to be here.
Cool. Yes, and it's great to have you here. These seats were reversed over a year ago as you were Florida bound.
Yes.
And so what has life been like for you now, over a year later?
Life has been interesting, and so as you're aware, because we've stayed in close touch with one another, a lot of changes have taken place over the last year with moves, transitions. Wondering as I first went down to Florida, not knowing really what my purpose was going to be, what the universe or what my higher power would have me doing, whether it was a beach bum or what have you, and I've gotten some messages from the universe in terms of the direction for my life to take, and I've been very plugged into that. So it's been interesting, it's been busy, lots of changes, lots of good things happening, a number of struggles as well, but we call that life.
Yes, yes. Well, to our viewers that maybe this is the first time they're seeing this show, you founded this show over 2 years ago as a board member of the Recovery Resource Center here in Salisbury. Can you even just mention what that was like for you to be a member and to start a show like this? We've now had well over a dozen episodes in this last 2.5 or so years.
Well, I was invited to come onto the board by some of the founders of the center, and was looking to, on a local level, an opportunity to give back to my community, because I had been engaged in this recovery advocacy work on a statewide and to some degree a national level, but here was an opportunity on a real local level to be involved. And so I accepted that offer, and not long after that, looking to see how I can best use my skills and what I have to offer, was given an opportunity to launch this Recovery Today show on PAC 14. Thought that it was really a great opportunity to really get the message out, not only locally to the recovery community and the community at large in the Salisbury area, but also through media to be able to expand and get it out, who knows, across, maybe even across the world. So took advantage of the opportunity that was offered me, and it was fantastic, I think, to be able to get this show off the ground, to be a part of it, and it's great to see that it continues.
Yeah, with that in mind then, as you mentioned, the power of media, and you are a person in long-term recovery, and you've worked professionally for many decades, like myself, and how the evolution of this recovery, and even before that, treatment world and intervention world. And so you do have a very unique sort of sage wisdom to this sort of long view of how our community has been affected by addiction, and our families and institutions. And so, having said all that, I'm wondering, as I kind of put this up for the audience to understand your background, can you explain a little bit about that, your story, and capsulize?
I'll try to really condense my story. I came from a middle-class family. good traditions and values that I was brought up with.
And that was in Maryland, right?
That was in Maryland, and north of Baltimore. A loving family, and I was a very self-willed person, and I wanted what I wanted when I wanted it from the get-go. And I had this curiosity about alcohol and getting high from a very early age. And once I, at age 14, lit those fires and got drunk for the first time, despite negative consequences, the very first time that I used, I was on a mission to get more of that stuff. And so by my late teens, although I wasn't aware of it, I was drinking alcoholically. By my late teens, I had a sister that was killed by a drunk driver. When I was 17, she was 2 years older than me. She was killed, her best friend was killed, her fiance was killed, and the driver of the other car that was intoxicated was killed also. Wow. I swore I would never drink and drive again. That promise lasted all of about 2 or 3 months, and I drove drunk hundreds of times after that. At any time, I could have taken somebody else's life. Was only thinking about me at that time. I ended up crashing and burning when I had just turned 26 years old. The year prior to that, I had checked myself into a VA hospital on a psychiatric unit, spent 2 months there. They suggested I might be an alcoholic, and that was the last thing in the world that I wanted to be, alcoholic or drug addict. And I spent the next year trying to convince myself that I was not. Ended up with a head-on collision that ended up for me being at 26 in my third treatment program, and I was ready at that point. I was given what we call the gift of desperation, and I found myself opening up to a whole new world that I had no idea. I thought it was about just stopping the use of alcohol and other substances, and it was so much more than that. I could not have fathomed how transformative, beginning with getting the cork in the jug and then starting to make changes, not only the people, places, and things external to me, but also, more importantly maybe, was the internal changes that I needed to make. And so my life began to significantly transform, and it wasn't too long after that that I found myself drawn to working in the treatment field. I was a counselor, first job at Springfield State Hospital down in Baltimore, and began the journey of a lifetime career working in prevention, treatment, intervention to a degree, and the recovery advocacy work, which really ended up being my passion, but for many years worked in the addictions treatment field, and then transitioned from that into recovery advocacy work, which I continue to do even in my retirement or my semi-retirement that I'm in now.
Well, speaking of that, your last job then was here on the Eastern Shore, right?
Yes, my last job was as the director of the Dorchester County Addictions Program, which gave me the opportunity to be the founder of the Dry Dock Recovery and Wellness Center, one of the first recovery community centers in the state of Maryland. And I loved the exposure, the opportunity to launch a program like that. And at that time, as I was transitioning away from the state, my state service, in that position, I was also beginning to work with the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, the Maryland chapter, and doing recovery advocacy work with that. So both my state position as well as the working with NCADD of Maryland gave me expanded beyond the local community platform to a statewide and to some degree a national platform as well.
Yes, and with that in mind then, in talking to you over the years, you brought up a concept to me that you're now experiencing in a way, and that is the idea is aging baby boomers, mm-hmm. and that there's this silver tsunami.
The silver tsunami, yeah, I just love that concept. Right, that of people aging out, and so we have some grave concerns in the in across the nation, and not just in terms of the how it impacts the addictions world, but also but specifically with the addictions world, a lot of very experienced, seasoned people with a lot of institutional knowledge are now aging out, and we have concerns about the need for the newcomer coming beyond, and the mentorship that needs to happen in order to have a continuity that's going to continue to address these grave concerns that we have about addressing, not, we refer to it often as the opioid epidemic, but more broadly it really is an addictions epidemic that we need to address.
Yes, and you've been a mentor to me for sure, and I don't take that lightly. And so you role model for me, as you have for many people, and you do. And in that way, there is this idea of people who commit to a life of service, mm-hmm. and in particular, if they're sort of what I would call wounded healers, or mm-hmm. people who have had a lived experience mm-hmm. with addiction, either as family members or directly impacted by mm-hmm. addiction. That shows like this can educate the public mm-hmm. and present needs as they are. Mm-hmm. And there certainly is a continuous need to deal with the beyond opioid epidemic to really, as we've talked many times, particularly alcohol as one of the most abused drugs mm-hmm. after tobacco, actually, and how there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And in that vein, can you tell us then, what are you now doing in your silver life, so to speak?
Mm-hmm. Gladly. A combination of reading a couple pieces of literature that are out there that are specific to recovery advocacy led me to the spark of a vision of finding a way to connect the dots of individuals and communities and families in different locations. Originally it was in Maryland, looking to connect the dots of the recovery communities in Maryland, but then it expanded. As the director of Dry Dock, one of the things that I created was the recovery wall that we had with T-shirts that were from all around the country of different recovery communities. All these beautifully colored, there was the McShin's smoking meat, not drugs T-shirt, and others that showed an individual walking into Dry Dock for the first time that they were a part of the we. And that we was not just located in Cambridge, Maryland. The we was something that was broader. It was found throughout the state of Maryland, throughout the country, and even more broadly all around the world, that recovery is happening, that people can and do recover from this addiction. Even though it's taken countless lives, there is hope to be found. And so it's all about this concept of we. That we can do together what none of us can do alone. And so the concept is launching what we're calling International Recovery Day. And so it is an online experience that we are constructing now. Our website, it's internationalrecoveryday.org. It's under construction right now. We're looking to have registration available come January 1st. It's a free online experience, and people are going to, the event occurs September 30th of 2020, and people are going to go online and register, and then on that day of International Recovery Day, this is going to be our inaugural event, the first time that we were going to have it, but looking to build it over the future. On that day, September 30th, people are going to go onto their website. They're pre-registered, and they're going to have their own unique recovery firework that they're going to launch in celebration of the hope and help that is offered through recovery. And they're going to be able to see on a two-dimensional map all across the world, these individuals, that's going to be geomapping. So individuals, whether it's out of New Delhi, India, or Sydney, Australia, or Cambridge, Maryland, people that are launching their fireworks, and you're going to be able to see all across the globe people from all addictions, from all pathways of recovery, including family members that have lost their loved ones, family members that have a loved one out there actively in addiction, or that are in recovery from addiction, all coming together. So this is really huge. We're talking about, in the United States, the largest recovery event we have is about 25,000 people. We're talking about the potential for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people coming together to celebrate this recovery experience that we know is transforming in people's lives.
Wow, that's global. And I'm just struck by this germinated and seeded right here on the eastern shore of Maryland.
Absolutely.
And so you're hearing it first here on Recovery Today, that there is this international effort that started here in our local community.
In my recovery, or through my recovery, I was taught to, it's a biblical term as I understand it, don't hide your light under a bushel basket, which I always did. And I was afraid to really let my true self emerge. Through my work in recovery, I've been dusting off that light, that lampshade, and letting my light shine forth. And so my mentors taught me to think big. And so I think I seized upon that offer to think big, and so we're going global with this.
Wow. Well, is there something the viewers can, and family members that are watching this show, plug into? I guess you mentioned that website, the date.
Well, right now they could go to our Facebook page, which is International Recovery Day on Facebook. Just go to that, and you can learn more about the activities. And we've already tapped in, as you know, we've tapped into folks from all around the world. That from Tasmania and New Zealand and Japan and Australia, Canada, the UK, just all over the world. People are really excited about this opportunity. So we hope that the folks right here in a local eastern shore of Maryland, as well as the viewers that get exposed to this video, will take advantage of this free online experience. As well as there's a sister initiative, which is Recovery Lights Around the World. And we are inviting folks to go to their local mayor or their local associations, as I've done in Virginia Beach. And Virginia Beach is going to light up their town hall in purple. Purple is the color, as with your shirt that you have on. Purple is the color that represents recovery. And so we're not only looking to light up Town Hall, but we're also looking to light up the entire Virginia Beach Boardwalk in purple. And so we're hoping to do that in the towns and cities and capitals all around the globe.
Well, as we're wrapping up the show for this episode, this international concept, and I think of the words unity and alignment and community and sort of the embracing an interconnectedness of recovery people, no matter what the pathway of recovery is for you, and for family members as well. So I guess the word hope strikes me as maybe one of the strongest concepts of for people who are observing this and experiencing the event over this day.
The two primary words that stand out for me, Perry, are we and hope.
Okay.
That it's a connectedness. It's connecting to my spirit with your spirit and the spirits of other folks that are on the same journey. And the journey is about a journey of hope that we're looking to shift away. We all know about the ravages of addiction. We've heard that, ad infinitum about, how many, the losses of, the devastation to individuals, families, and communities. We're looking to shift the focus from the negative over to the positive, shift over to the solution, that there is hope available for individuals, families, and communities to recover and not only to stop the use, but to rebuild lives and to expand that into the community at large, that there's much that the recovery community has to offer the broader community at large.
Wow. Well, I really applaud your efforts to do this kind of work in your later active senior years or silver years.
Thank you, and it is a we thing. It's not just a me thing, it is a we thing. And so there are a lot of folks that are involved that are a part of this, and I think that is real important to make sure that message gets out. It is about that we can do together what none of us can do alone.
Okay, and so I want to thank you for being here today.
You are welcome, and thank you for having me, Perry.
And I want to thank our guests for watching another episode of Recovery Today, sponsored by the Recovery Resource Center, which is very much a we resource here in Salisbury, Maryland. It has helped thousands of people over the years here in our local community. And also remind you that this show is on YouTube as well, on the PAC 14 channel. And please share that if you can't watch this show live through the normal broadcast ways that are available to the citizens of Wicomico County. So again, thank you, John, and thank you for another episode of Recovery Today.